The angry video game nerd is a very prominent figure in internet history. Created by James Rolfe on his website known as Cinemassacre, he essentially kickstarted the genre of internet reviews, for better or for worse. And over the years, there's a lot of interesting information and events happening throughout the series and other series from Cinemassacre, so much so that an Iceberg could be created about it. An Iceberg essentially lists out trivia from a genre of media from top to bottom. The top part being the most common information, and the bottom part being the most rare, even going as far as going to theory territory. So, with the help of my followers from my gimmick account, Fake AVGN Thumbnails, I've created the AVGN Iceberg. And today, I'm going to explain each part of that iceberg to the best of my knowledge. Nostalgia Critic. The Nostalgia Critic, played by Doug Walker, is an internet creator that joined in 2007, 4 years after James started AVGN. His shtick was much similar to the nerds, but with movies instead of video games. They both had a feud in 2008 that spanned through several videos, ending off with a big fight between the both of them. Ever since then, Doug and James have collaborated with each other, both in character and out of character. The Nostalgia Critic even makes a cameo appearance in the video game AVGN 2, Assimilation, as a mini-boss. LJN. LJN was an American toy company and video game publisher that was founded in 1970. They were infamous for publishing low-quality NES and SNES titles, mostly consisting of movie tie-in games. The nerd considers LJN as his worst enemy, as these titles are some of the worst he's played. The company was later bought by Acclaim Entertainment in 1990, and then became defunct in 1995. Fred Fucks. In the SNES and Sega Genesis version of Bram Stoker's Dracula, the game over screen will list a series of names that I can assume are the ones who worked on a movie the game is based on. One of the names listed was Fred Fucks, a Canadian-American film producer known for producing this film and The Godfather Part 3, among many other movies and TV shows. This name became one of the running jokes of the AVGN series ever since the Dracula episode.
Wait, who's this? Fred Fucks? Fred Fucks?
Fred Fucks? Fred Fucks! Oh my god, Fred Fucks! Oh my god, it's Fred Fucks! Oh, Fred Fucks. Who programmed this thing? Maybe it was Fred Fucks.
The program engineer shows his face? I wish it was Fred Fucks.
I miss Fred Fucks.
For Fred fuck's sake, what's with all the blood?
The character makes an appearance as the final boss in the Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures game, portrayed as the game's developer, Sam Beddoes, and in the Life of Black Tiger episode, portrayed by Gilbert Gottfried.
In the original Alpha build, I had a full-on Tiger sex scene.
Rolling Rock. Rolling Rock was an American beer product that was first launched in 1939. The nerd would drink Rolling Rock as a coping mechanism for all the bad games he's playing. You could say that it's James's favorite beer in a way.
I'm drinking Rollin' Rock on the Rollin' Rocker. Rollin' Rock? Rollin' Rocker. Yeah, Rollin' Rock on the Rollin' Rocker.
Shit Pickle. Shit Pickle was one of the first characters in the series. As the name implies, he's a shit pickle.
Shit pickle. He
first appeared in Master Chew and the Drunkard Who, and made some other small appearances in future episodes, such as Action 52 and the Tomb Raider episode. The Pickle also appears in AVGN Adventures as a hidden collectible. James and Mike Mondays. James and Mike Mondays was a series where both James and Mike play a game and commentate on it, and as the title implies, videos of this series happen every Monday. They announced in July 2020 that they're taking a hiatus.
And I think it might be a good mental reboot for us to just sort of take a little break from the Let's Plays for a little while. And then we'll come back in February.
But ultimately, the series have been discontinued since Mike left Cinemassacre to focus on streaming full-time on his Twitch channel.
Unfortunately, James and Mike Mondays will not be returning. Mike and I talked about it, and he'll be leaving the channel to focus full-time on his streaming, which is his own independent thing, separate from Cinemassacre.
Minecraft with Gadget. Minecraft with Gadget is a Cinemassacre video published on May 11th of 2012, which was during the time where Mike takes over Cinemassacre while James was working on the AVGN movie. It features Mike Matei and his drawing of Inspector Gadget, also voiced by him. The video is just him playing Minecraft Pocket Edition on his iPad while Gadget acts like a wisecrack to him. It became infamous for how hilariously bad it is, especially with Mike's Inspector Gadget delivery.
I understand why all the kids are playing this game these days. It's because they like to build brown bricks with Minecraft.
At one point, Mike tries to take down any re-uploads of the video before he decides to embrace the joke and re-upload it to the Cinemassacre Plays channel on May 9th of 2020, nearly 8 years after the original's release. AVGN movie. Speaking of the AVGN movie, this is one of James's biggest projects, directed by James himself and Kevin Finn. The movie itself centers around the nerd and his quest to review E.T. the Extraterrestrial for the Atari 2600, while also escaping the military and a giant robot monster. It received mixed reviews and hasn't really been talked about since then, though it has been referenced in the aforementioned AVGN 2 Assimilation. James's home movies. This refers to a series of home movies that James did as a child, with his very first one being Jimmy Rolfe vs. the Punchy Bag. These short films would slowly grow his interest and passion for filmmaking, with one of the more notable examples being The Head Incident, which got a sequel in 2020. The Bullshit Man. The Bullshit Man was a character created for a series known as You Know What's Bullshit. Originally, it was just James doing a voiceover, but until episode 13, Too Much Cream Cheese, he decided to make a character for himself. Though, oddly enough, ever since the oversized packaging episode, the character's face was never seen again. The character made a small appearance in the Tiger Electronics episode, and as a playable character in AVGN Adventures. Celebrity cameos. Many celebrities have appeared in nerd episodes from time to time, with many notable examples being the aforementioned Gilbert Gottfried as Fred Fox, but there's also Lloyd Kaufman in the Toxic Crusaders episode, Macaulay Culkin in a Home Alone Games episode, and Mike Butters in a Pepsi Man episode, just to name a few. Cinemassacre Review. Cinemassacre Review is a series where James will review a movie, review a series of movies, or talk about a film-related topic. Sometimes he will have Mike or a celebrity guest over to review a movie with him, but he mostly does this series solo. Monster Madness. Monster Madness was a series created by James Rolfe, where he would review 31 horror movies in a span of 31 days in October. It started in 2007 and is currently a yearly tradition, even if the old formula has slowed down as of recent years. However, as of this recording, Monster Madness is making a full comeback in 2021. Nintendo gear. This refers to the NES and SNES accessories that he would wear in a huge fight, first appearing in the Super Mario Bros. 3 episode, where he was fighting the devil, and would later reappear when fighting Rob the Robot in episode 100. Each part of the gear itself is also an unlockable item in AVGN 2 Assimilation. Nerdy Turd. Nerdy Turd is a character that first appeared in the Odyssey episode, since the Magnavox Odyssey games only support 2 players. The character itself is a clone of the nerd, created from his own shit and only makes farting noises. The Nerdy Turd has never made an appearance since that episode. However, it did make an appearance in AVGN 2 Assimilation as a mini-boss. Rex Viper. The name Rex Viper applies to both the band that James created and one of the characters in the AVGN series. Rex Viper the band was first announced in December of 2020 during a Cinemassacre update video.
I'm working on another music video. We're calling the band Rex Viper. Thanks to Adam for that logo, by the way. That's just a demo.
The band itself will do mashup covers of 80s video game and movie songs, with 3 songs released so far. Rex Viper the character first appeared in the Big Rick's episode, and hasn't really become a recurring character until 2019 with the Superman 64 Returns episode, and hasn't been given a name until the Life of Black Tiger episode, giving him the name Rex Viper Riggs.
And if that ain't replay value, my name ain't Rex Viper Riggs!
Rex Viper Riggs is also the mascot of the Rex Viper Band. AVGN clones. Since James made a huge impact with the AVGN series, there's of course going to be clones of him that essentially copy his style. 2 of the most infamous examples are Irate Gamer and Game Dude. Irate Gamer still makes videos to this day, while Game Dude has slipped into insanity with his own controversy.
You see, Alexander met a young girl. A girl he loved deeply. He was in love with a girl named Alana. Their relationship to him was the first of its kind. He had never had a girlfriend before. And for a few years, things went okay. Until 2012. Now, according to Alexander and some of the videos that he released, they had an open relationship around this time. And apparently, Alana found something outside the relationship during that time that was better than what Alexander was offering. Because by July of that year, by July of 2012, they were officially over. Even went so far as to do romantic music videos to try to win Alana's heart back. Wow, he is really screwed up. He's so obsessed, I think he follows me, and he keeps phoning me. He's such a creep. Yes, tell him to leave me alone or I'll call the police. I already did file a police report. I'm not joking, okay? He needs to stop thinking it's a joke. Did I fail to mention the police reports? Or the court case? Or the massive amount of legal troubles that ended up driving Alexander to flee the country?
Redone thumbnails. Recently, all the thumbnails have been redone in a different style. The new style of thumbnails first started with video game magazines back in 2019. It didn't seep into the older videos up until late 2019 to early 2020. Blu-rays and DVDs. A series of AVGN DVDs and Blu-rays were released throughout the years, which consisted of 7 episodes and bonus features. The DVDs were first published by Screw Attack back when James worked for them, but were later switched to Screenwave when James made a switch to that company, along with releasing Blu-rays for the AVGN series, which Screw Attack was never able to do. Bargain Bin Christmas and Borderline Forever. I decided to combine them both into one section, since both are essentially just James making a cameo with YouTuber Scott the Woz. In Bargain Bin Christmas, James was the opening narrator.
This is the story of a boy who talked about stupid Nintendo games. Ever since 2017, he's done it 149 times and shows no sign of shame. Every single week he'd go Madden 08 this and Fling Smash that. It's really impressive how many sentences he could start with "Hey all." Any professional could make the argument he's gone off the deep end, but I think it's just how he's always been. He just enjoys talking about these things regardless of what situations he gets himself into. Plus, he buys a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff, and he stated on multiple occasions he evades taxes. Like, Jesus Christ, I think he does it for fun! But with the Christmas season upon us, his passion may have finally brought him towards a bit of a crisis.
And in Borderline Forever, his nerd character appears in the opening segment of where Scott was parodying the game reviewer trope.
And if you aren't willing to say f*** uncensored, get the f*** out of here.
Duly noted.
Angry Nintendo Nerd. Angry Nintendo Nerd is the original name for the AVGN series back when he only reviewed NES games. The name was later changed in episode 15, chronologically confused about sequel titles. The theme song was also updated to fit that name change.
He's the angry Nintendo nerd. He's the angry Nintendo nerd. He's the angry Nintendo nerd. He's the angry Atari Sega nerd. He's the angry video game nerd.
Super Mecha Death Christ. This refers to a character that first appeared in the Super Mario Bros. 3 episode, where it's basically just a mecha version of Jesus Christ. The character will later appear in the AVGN vs. Nostalgia Critic fight as the Nerd's Last Resort, a power-up in AVGN Adventures, and as a small reference in Nostalgia Critic's Justice League episode.
Okay, I'll be over here then.
AVGN Memories in the Earthbound episode. In Earthbound, the main character, Ness, enters a dream world known as Magicant, where all his memories and past selves appear there. Same thing happens to the nerd in the Earthbound episode, where he enters a dream world consisting of references of episodes past and stumbling across his younger self, along with his other characters.
And while you're at it, get some clothes that fit.
Mike Matei Schlong. There was a joke surrounding Mike Matei that Mike has a huge dick. He seems to be embracing the joke, but at the same time being annoyed with it. This all leads to him posting his actual dick, however. As far as I know, Mike got no repercussions for this action. Behind the scenes tidbits. Over the years, James would post behind the scenes and outtakes of several AVGN episodes, and there's some interesting tidbits here and there. One example is the Rob the Robot episode, where he has Rob throws games at the TV, in the part where Rob was throwing games at the nerd's face.
And keep in mind also, Rob has to be looking at the TV in order to control his arms like that. So he's actually looking at the TV when he's supposed to be looking at me, and I'm in a different part of the room.
And in the Crazy Castle episode, where James used rotoscoping to make it seem like the futon broke when he fell into it.
Fit now. Guitar. Now get ready, pull as tight as you can. I'm going to jump on it. Right. Okay. Here we go, ready?
Irate Gamer collab. Irate Gamer, as mentioned before, is one of the more infamous AVGN clones. In 2020, a trailer was released by the Irate Gamer announcing a collaboration between him and the AVGN. A few weeks after that trailer, the collaboration was released for a review with Dick Tracy on the NES, with the AVGN appearing as a cameo for like a total of 2 minutes. He's really just a very small cameo in that episode. Funny enough, before that collab came to be, James appeared in another channel by Chris Spores, the creator of Irate Gamer, Puppet Steve, in a Street Fighter 2 tabletop arcade video, voicing as Ken.
Alright, a Street Fighter game? I can't wait to play this.
Well, well, if it isn't Ryu, back off, I'll be playing this arcade game first.
What? Well, that's what you think, Ken.
Ooh, that's it. Let's settle this with a street fight.
You're on!
Fan cams. For those unfamiliar with fan cams, a fan cam is a recording of a live performance, more specifically from Korean pop artists. They can also be referred to as a short edit of a person or even a fictional character. And yes, there's some for AVGN. I would play some fan cams in its entirety, but I would get copyright claimed out the ass, so I'll just play a 3-second clip of every fan cam that I got. Board James and AVGN in the same episode. Board James was another character created by James, where he once seemed calm and joyful with playing board games, but slowly turned insane as the series went on. Board James would cameo in some Nerd episodes, beginning with AVGN games, and most recently, Resident Evil Survivor.
Yo, Nerd, I got a better game for us. Board James, go away.
Board James also appears as a mini-boss in AVGN 2, Assimilation. Guitar Guy Death and Revival. Kyle Justin, also known as the guitar guy in the AVGN episodes, was the one who created the AVGN theme song for James. He first appeared in the Battletoads episode, establishing his character as the guy who lives behind the couch, alone with no one else but the nerd. Guitar Guy will later go back to the couch, never to be seen again, up until the Ikari Warriors episode, where he's seen as nothing but a skeleton. That is, until the nerd revives him with the button combination ABBA, which is used to revive the player in the actual game.
An average game of Ikari Warriors lasts maybe 5 minutes, but you're in luck. There's a code, ABBA. It brings you back to life.
Sadly though, he has to go behind the couch at the end of the episode and is never seen again.
Get back behind the couch.
He's the angry video game nerd.
James with a mustache. This refers to a time period in his older movies and videos where James has a notable mustache. And that's pretty much it. Cinemassacre Rental Reviews. This is a movie review series that's different from Cinemassacre Review. Instead of just James talking about a movie by himself, he has several crew members join with him in an unscripted discussion about a movie or movie-related topic, similar to Red Letter Media. It tries to stand out by giving you a rental movie store aesthetic, and had special events such as Cage Match, February Carry, and martial arts. The series lasted from August 2018 to June 2020. Episode re-edits. Several episodes were altered due to copyright takedowns. These episodes include Rocky, TMNT3 Movie Review, Ghostbusters, The Wizard and Super Mario Bros. 3, Dick Tracy, and Rob the Robot. Almost all of them were taken out due to the use of movie clips, so the YouTube versions were re-edited to have still frames instead of actual footage. But with the Rob the Robot episode, there's 3 different versions of it, all containing different music tracks.
What's the difference? All these games suck. What's the difference? All these games suck. Alright, here's your damn gyro.
You idiot.
Alright, here's your damn gyro.
You idiot.
Nerd cameo in Typing of the Bread. Typing of the Bread is a mobile game released for iOS in 2010. From what I can gather, it's essentially a 2D version of Typing of the Dead, but with gingerbread zombies instead of actual zombies. The Nerd makes a cameo in that game, as mentioned in the AVGN Games episode. The state of the game right now is unknown, but it's likely to have been discontinued. Captain S. Captain S, or The New Adventures of Captain S, was a series created by Screw Attack in 2007. It stars a character named Chad Belmont, an underachieving high school student who really loves Sega games, and stumbles across the Sega Genesis game from a suspicious seller that allows him to enter into games' universe. He's joined alongside his friends Becky and Lunk, and his crush Stacy, as well as having his own antagonist, NES. There's also the Head, which gives him the powers he needs to get through the game. The show lasted for 10 episodes, along with several filler stuff in between the episodes. The character himself has made a few appearances with the AVGN, one of them being the Nostalgia Critic vs. Nerd fight at the Digital Press Video Games Convention, and the most notable being a Christmas special episode with him. Not canon to the Captain S series, but does serve as a prequel to the Nerd's Christmas Carol duology.
Thanks for sending me this crappy game. Coal would have been nice, or even better, a bag of poop.
Ninja Baseball Batman episode. Ninja Baseball Batman is an arcade beat-em-up game released in 1993 and has its own Nerd episode in 2011. There's not much to that episode other than him being pleasantly surprised about the game's name and the game itself, and wanting the game to be ported to modern consoles.
But right now, the only way to play it is on an emulator. Or if you happen to have access to one of the arcade units. No, this needs to come out again on a home console, or better yet, Xbox Live. Ninja Baseball Batman.
Elmo's Number Journey review. This episode was once an old DVD bonus feature, and as a thank to the people who donated to the fundraiser for the AVGN movie. It was uploaded to the Cinemassacre Plays channel on December 7th of 2020. The episode features James reviewing Elmo's Number Journey in somewhat of the same style as a Nerd, with Mike Matei doing an Elmo impression in between some segments.
Oh, let's touch the horse's dick.
Elmo touched the horse's cock!
Above the basement. In the earlier episodes, the Nerd is seen playing games in his living room, and later, a separate room. Starting with the Batman Games episode, however, the Nerd has been playing games in his basement, but what hasn't been seen is what is above it, except for a few instances. In the Rob the Robot episode, he's seen walking to the kitchen making a gyro for Rob, and in the Winter Games episode, he's seen near a fireplace above the basement where he burns the copy of the game. Nerd outfit change. The Nerd has stayed consistent with his outfit up until the AVGN movie where he changed his glasses. That change will last up until the Raid 2020 episode with a full costume change, sporting a different button-up shirt and a different pair of glasses. AVGN 10-year anniversary auction. To celebrate 10 years of AVGN, James decided to do an auction for charity in 2016. The auction items consisted of old artwork, costumes, props, and scripts of episodes past, along with some props for the AVGN movie. The money made for the auction will go to Shriners Hospitals for Children. On June 24th of the same year, James posted a tweet showing him and the hospital's gratitude towards the fanbase, showing that $20,200 were raised because of that auction. The total amount raised is unclear though, since he also provided the links saying that more items will be auctioned there, so it's likely that the amount had raised since that tweet was posted. AVGN and Nostalgia Critic anime cameo. In a very small appearance, the AVGN Nostalgia Critic appeared in an anime known as Zettai Karen Children, or Psychic Squad. Both James and Doug will recreate that frame a few years later. Bad NES games. This one refers to how the first two episodes of AVGN were originally referred to as Bad NES games, before he actually established a name for himself. The names were shown in the Cinemassacre Gold Collection, showing that he didn't intend this to be an actual series. AVGN appears in Ghostbusters Xbox 360 review. In 2009, James uploaded a review of Ghostbusters the video game for Xbox 360, where he reviews the game as himself rather than as a nerd. Before it starts, however, the AVGN himself makes it a small appearance.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's play this miserable shitload of fuck.
No, it's not like that. This game's not old, and it's not shitty.
A good Ghostbusters game?
Believe it or not, yes.
Guess you don't need me.
Ghostbusters 2016 controversy. When the trailer for Ghostbusters 2016 released, James decided to put out a video called Ghostbusters 2016. No review, I refuse. As the title implies, James refuses to watch Ghostbusters 2016 because he feels like the magic is being lost with the reboot.
The original, which we now have to call the 1984 Ghostbusters, is a timeless classic. It's one of the greatest comedies ever made. But this one, judging from the trailers, it looks awful. If you already know you're going to hate it, why give them your money? If this is the Ghostbusters movie that nobody wanted, then the box office results should reflect that.
This somehow garnered controversy for him, with articles going around calling him sexist for refusing to watch the film. James gave no response to the controversy, and it all died down after a while, which is probably for the best. ExpressVPN ads. ExpressVPN is a VPN service that's known for having it being sponsored by several YouTubers, with James being no exception. Starting with Raid 2020, these sponsorship segments would start off with James setting up the premise for the AVGN episode, and ending that premise off with something along the lines of, but not as bad as having your unencrypted private data being harvested by hackers, governments, and corporations.
Thanks for watching this episode of Angry Video Game Nerd on Raid 2020, which is about stopping crimes in the future. But the real crime is having your unencrypted data harvested by hackers, governments, and corporations.
James and Mike and Beavis and Butthead connection. In the Beavis and Butthead episode of AVGN, he mentions how Beavis and Butthead have pioneered the various styles of reviewing media today, with their segment where they review music in character, which he described as two jackasses sitting on the couch making fun of shit, while also showing an image of James and Mike. This could somewhat imply that they're both inspired by Beavis and Butthead in a way, or it could also just be a self-plug. Guests appearing out of nowhere. There's been plenty of guests throughout the series, but one thing that was overlooked is how they kept appearing out of nowhere. Either the front door was left open for some reason, or they found a way to break into the nerd's house. It's all a mystery. Happy Video Game Nerd. Made by Derek Alexander of Stop Skeletons for Fighting, this series was made as a polar opposite of the Angry Video Game Nerd. Instead of reviewing bad games and getting angry a lot, Derek decided to review good games and underrated gems while keeping a positive spirit.
This game is ass. This game kicks ass. Fuck. 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 Fuck yeah. You try to help me now, man? Well, let me be honest with you about this one. Ooh boy, I hate this game.
Well, let me be completely honest with you about this one. Ooh boy, I love this game. I mean, I loved it as a kid growing up, and I love it just as much now. It's one of my favorite games for the Nintendo.
The series started in 2007 and will last until 2014. Guitar Guy originally human in AVGN Adventures. Originally, Guitar Guy was going to be alive in the AVGN Adventures. The sprite was later changed to him being dead, to coincide with the Guitar Guy's state behind the couch. Playlist Junkie. James refers to himself as a playlist junkie, and this series is all about the playlists he's made and his experience when making them. He also lists out the track in his playlist, that way the viewer can recreate that playlist for their listening experience. This series only lasted 16 episodes. Looking at Books. Looking at Books is another short series made by James. Here he talks about books from his childhood and how it impacted his life. This series was shorter than Playlist Junkie, only lasting 10 episodes. Kyle and Bootsy's departure. Kyle and Bootsy were very involved in James in his videos. Kyle with the music and some of the set builds for various episodes, and Bootsy with some of the songs in Board James, and being more involved with the Cinemassacre brand. He even had his own series called Bootsy Beats, where he gives a walkthrough on top NES games. A few years ago, however, both left Cinemassacre for unknown reasons. For Kyle's case, it's assumed to be for family reasons and working on a remodeling company, the remodeling company part being confirmed by a Reddit user. For Bootsy, there was a lot of speculation. Some say it was not paid for his time here, some say it was an amicable departure, some say it's because of Mike. Nothing is truly confirmed with his leave. AVGN 1 and 2 Deluxe character replacements. This is referring to the changes in characters and sprites seen in the newest AVGN game, AVGN 1 and 2 Deluxe. The final boss at AVGN Adventures there, who was the programmer of the game as mentioned before, was changed to Gilbert Gottfried's rendition of Fred Fox. Fred Fox was also the mini-boss replacement with what was once a nostalgia critic in AVGN 2. Other changes include replacing the General from the AVGN movie to Darth Vader, and replacing Def Mothix with Fred Fox's possessed computer as the final boss for that game. Mario, the unauthorized documentary. This was James and Mike's first gaming related video together, way before AVGN and James and Mike Mondays became a thing. According to the description, Mike had to come up with alternate history for someone in the entertainment field, and Mike chose Mario Segali, played by James, who was Miyamoto's landlord before Donkey Kong. The video depicts Mario Segali as a bitter old man because he wasn't given royalties for the creation of Super Mario.
Do the Mario! I don't do the freaking Mario! Why don't you swing your arms from side to side, Miyamoto?
Mike's Elmo and Grouchland review. Much like Mike Rabbit Gadget, this was one of Mike's videos posted to Cinemassacre while James was working on the AVGN movie. It was a review of Elmo and Grouchland. Well, sorta. It was really just him making awkward jokes, sometimes an Elmo impression, and some of them being in poor taste.
Elmo has an idea! Suck Elmo's dick! That's my idea! Don't you think that's a good idea, Zoe?
He's like,
ah! It's a very special birthday for Elmo! Now don't fucking touch it, bitch, or I'll slice your fucking eyes out! Elmo can't do anything. Elmo sucks. Elmo's a piece of shit. Elmo has no self-confidence. Elmo's gonna fucking blow his fucking brains away with this gun.
AVGN Game Theory. In 2013, Matt Pat made a game theory video centered around the nerd, mostly concerning his anger issues and diagnosing any mental health concerns because of that anger, using the DSM-5 as a source. Some of these claims include the AVGN having intermittent explosive disorder and suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. A small mention of the Happy Video Game Nerd was also mentioned there.
Nope, that's the Happy Video Game Nerd. Ah, there it is.
Cancelled Secret Scout episode. This episode was first released in the AVGN Volume 6 DVD as a special feature, but was later uploaded to the official Cinemassacre YouTube channel. It's a typical nerd episode, with some differences being the lack of live action footage, for example. The episode was stated to be unfinished and abandoned. Atari porn games. I feel like this is a classic case of lost media, despite not technically being lost. The episode featured a series of Atari porn games, some being more controversial than others. I first thought this was episode 33 and Nintendo Power was a replacement, especially since the most popular YouTube re-upload of it was titled episode 33, but really, as most sources state, this is episode 32. It was most likely deleted from YouTube due to the nature of it being explicit, but was still available to watch on DVD sets, so it isn't technically lost as mentioned before. The concept of this episode would have its own dedicated stage in AVGN Adventures. Pat the NES Punk Stream cameo. James has collaborated with Pat before, with the most notable crossover being the Nintendo World Championships episode. James will also cameo Pat in his live streams, more specifically the annual NES Marathon exclusive streams for charity. In those streams, the nerd will review a bad game, mostly on the NES to go with the theme of Pat's channel, in the typical nerd style. The Loco Bandito. The Loco Bandito was a series of comics created by Mike Matei, starring a Mexican stereotype known as the Loco Bandito. These comics are filled with racist jokes, gross-up panels, and just lots of crude humor. Not sure what else to say other than it's just flat out disgusting. Oh, and the fact that Mike Matei actually tried to get it published somehow. Screenwave Media. Screenwave Media is a company who now works with James in making the videos and publishing the games and DVDs and Blu-rays. It's zeroing the iceberg mostly because there's been some people who believe that Screenwave Media is responsible for taking the quality of James's videos. Screenwave also seems to be responsible for the change in thumbnails as of recently. r/The Cinemassacre Truth. r/The Cinemassacre Truth is a subreddit that's created by some ex-fans of Cinemassacre and exists to freely express their disappointment and or hatred with the state of Cinemassacre, as well as making some inside jokes about James and his crew, with the most comic joke being that James has no time.
Oh, fuck. 5:40 anyway.
All right, let's break it.
All right. Well, anyway, that's it. We just ran out of time because I have to be done at 5:40 right now. Again, what happened was that we ran out of time.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit original ending. The Who Framed Roger Rabbit episode was originally going to have another ending that follows up the one shown in the final product. Apparently, the episode was supposed to end in an angry rant, with the rant being about a Jesus Christ punching bag falling off the line.
I want to nail Roger Rabbit to the fucking cross.
According to James in an email response, the microphone input was switched off, so there's no audio in the recording, as well as the tape being wiped clean. This screenshot was the only image available for this original ending. Waver Velvet's AVGN cosplay. Waver Velvet is a character from the Time Noon series of games, a series of visual novels with their most popular being Fate Stay Night. In one of their mangas, Lord El Meloy 2, Waver can be seen wearing a button-up shirt with pens, similar to the nerd, and in that panel, he can be seen throwing an Amiga CD32 controller. Oh, fucking Jesus. AVGN and Nostalgia Critic shipping. Shipping, for those who don't know, is the desire for two or more characters to being in a romantic relationship. AVGN and Nostalgia Critic is one of those examples. And I wish I know why. Wizard of Oz 3, Dorothy Goes to Hell. This was a parody film James and Mike made that was deleted from Cinemassacre, but was later re-uploaded on YouTube by someone else. It was essentially a crude parody of The Wizard of Oz, with plenty of absurd content as stated in the warning screen. And yes, Dorothy Goes to Hell in this. Cheetah Men 2 Kickstarter. Cheetah Men was a game that was featured in the infamous and overpriced Action 52 for the NES, and serves as a feature presentation for the game. It had comics and plans for a toy collection surrounding the characters. It's an action platformer game where you play as different members of the Cheetah Men. There was a sequel to the game that was planned but never released. That was until 1,500 copies of the game were found in a warehouse in Florida and reused the Action 52 cartridge with a gold sticker that includes the name of the game on it. The game is very rare to find. The game plays similar to the last one, except it's a lot buggier and the last two levels are inaccessible unless you perform a glitch at the beginning of the game. In 2012, Greg Pabbage released a Kickstarter for a fixed version of Cheetah Men 2 to be played on NES hardware, with a goal of $65,000, with the AVGN, Game Chasers, and Pat the NES Buck endorsing this Kickstarter. Many people thought this Kickstarter was a scam, with its overpriced goal and the fact that a bug-fixed ROM hack of the game was released a year prior to this. The promotional video, according to the description of a re-upload, had lexicons disabled and it was later taken down. Prices spike after AVGN review. This was brought up to me when making the Iceberg, with some examples being Nightmare on Elm Street and Wayne's World on NES. A Nightmare on Elm Street cost around $10 loose back in the early 2000s, but in the years after the AVGN episode, the price starts to get higher and higher. With Wayne's World on NES, the price started the same, but a year after the YouTube upload, the price spiked to around $200, and while the spike was gone, it keeps going up. A strange coincidence, maybe? You Know What's BS on CNN. In a segment called News to Me, CNN Headline News aired an episode of You Know What's Bullshit on national television, specifically the episode about pennies. There's nothing much to that section other than just playing a censored version of the episode and having some guy acting like a wisecrack in the beginning and end of that section.
You know the saying, a penny saved. Well, James Rolfe hates pennies. He wants them all destroyed. Here's his rant.
Pennies are bull.
By the way, it costs more than a penny to make a penny. That's BS.
Howard Stern. Howard Stern is a radio and TV personality best known for his radio show, The Howard Stern Show. The show essentially talks about pop culture things in the comedic style. One of the only pieces of evidence that can be found tying him to the angry video game nerd is in this archive article by OneUp.com. Although the video is unavailable now, it does provide context about the whole deal. It states that Howard Stern was at a 2-Minute Games convention in 2011 and was mocking people who are there to see the AVGN. At one point he states that, "I have a job, I'm a guy who has a career, I have a life, I've got a wife. These fucking guys are living in the basement with their parents. You can't be gaming 24/7. Metal Gear Ben cameo as Psycho Mantis. Metal Gear Ben was another series created by Screw Attack, created and starring Ben Singer, which parodies the Metal Gear Solid games. In one of the episodes, titled Ghost of Deception, James plays a parody version of Psycho Mantis, who in the episode gives him fake cakes. And if you played Portal at least once before...
The cake is a freaking lie. Deal with it!
Yeah, you can definitely tell how dated this show is. Funny thing is that this was pretty hard to find. I couldn't find it on YouTube, and trying to find it on Rooster Teeth, who now basically owns Screw Attack, I can only find a Metal Gear Origins series episode. Luckily, I was able to find the episode on BitChute, with the footage you're seeing now.
But what are you gonna do about it, pussy boy?
Out-Nerd the Nerd Competition. Out-Nerd the Nerd was a competition held by Game Trailers in 2007. I'm assuming this competition was about being the best at being the total opposite, or at least having the same quality as AVGN. The only evidence I can find about this is this message forum, titled, How I Tried to Out-Nerd the Nerd, and the fact that Derek Alexander, the creator of the aforementioned Happy Video Game Nerd, won the competition. James Rolfe and banned Super Bowl commercial. In 2011, a Doritos and Pepsi Max commercial was made for the Super Bowl, titled Feed Your Flock. The commercial centers around a priest trying to grow his congregation by offering free Doritos and Pepsi at church, which proved to be a success in the end. It was criticized by Catholics and was banned from being aired during the Super Bowl. In the commercial itself, around the 36-second mark, you can see James pop out, doing his signature frown expression. Full AVGN Polybius footage. Do not research. This is just made up for the Iceberg. In the Polybius episode, the nerd mentions uploading the footage and receiving comments and emails about it.
But first, I just want to read this really interesting email I got here, which I'm sure is a hoax, but either way, it's pretty interesting. Big fan of your work, but I'll get straight to the point. Saw your Polybius Day 1 video. It's real, judging from cabinet and your description. Don't expect you to take my word, but it matches everything my father told me before he died.
He also showed footage of him locking himself up when slowly going insane. I like to imagine this as a sort of lost footage type thing. There is a Polybius test series on the Cinemassacre Plays channel, but it was literally just a Polybius episode split into parts. Board James is a prequel to AVGN. This is tied in with the video games episode of Board James, with the nerd as a cameo. In the episode, Board James plays a bunch of board games about video games, with the nerd appearing often trying to get Board James to unleash his anger, since it seems like Board James is more fair and kind, with the nerd being more blunt and, well, angry. In the end of the episode, Board James has reached his limit and was fully convinced by the nerd to become a nerd himself, ending with a remix of the AVGN theme. Guitar Guy is still behind the couch. Ikari Warriors was the last episode that featured Guitar Guy, which could mean that he's still behind the couch, considering that the theme song still plays in most of the episodes. So that could mean that Guitar Guy is dead again. Board James has two different endings. As mentioned before, Board James was another series where the character seemed calm and playful at first, but slowly turned insane as the series went on. Starting with Mr. Bucket in episode 8 with a killer Mr. Bucket, working its way toward the climax with Dream Phone in episode 19, with the pink phone killing Board James' friends, Motherfucker Mike, and Bad Luck Bootsy. He ends up being all alone up until episode 23, Ouija/Domino Rally, where his friends come back.
Don't worry about it.
Nothing happened, alright? It's nothing.
But I just need to know. I mean,
Shut the fuck up.
everything's fine. It's nothing.
It's in the past.
It never happened.
It's alright. It's okay. We never need to talk about it again.
Never again.
Never more.
Never more.
Never more.
Quoth the raven, nevermore.
But in episode 24, it was revealed that everything was a lie, and he was alone this whole time.
You don't like feeling alone, right?
I'm not alone. I have friends.
You don't have any friends.
You don't need to pretend. It's okay not to have any friends.
Hey! Stop touching my balls! Hey, where all the balls go? You have all the Hey! You asshole!
You guys are my friends. Guys!
Episodes 25, 26, and 27 follow different paths, confirming that they're different endings for the series, with the aforementioned video games episode ending with Board James converting to the angry video game nerd. Episode 26 ends with a much darker tone, with Mike and Bootsy being hanged to death and James being locked up in prison. Episode 27 is a follow-up to the previous one, where they all play multiple board games and them being in the board game universes themselves. It ends with Board James defeated in every last one of them. So that can mean that episode 25 is the good ending to the series, with episode 26 and 27 being the bad/true ending of the series. Big Rig's hyperspeed character disappearance. This of course happened during the Big Rig's episode, specifically in the speeding up segment near the end, where the nerd decides to go up to hyperspeed with a truck going backwards, since in the game itself, going backwards somehow accelerates the truck way faster than going forwards. In one of the speedy portals, several characters slightly appear in it: Miss Piggy, Darth Vader, Winnie the Pooh, and Spock from Star Trek. Why are they there? I'm not sure, but I like to think that because of the hyperspeed the nerd created, these characters disappear into space. Movie AVGN is an alternate universe version of video AVGN. Despite being supposedly set in the same universe, there's barely any mention of the movie in nerd episodes preceding it. No mention of the sidekick, the girl, Cockburn Inc., the military. It just seems like a dream or an alternate universe. AVGN 2 Assimilation has several references to the movie, as mentioned before, but according to the AVGN 1 and 2 Deluxe documentary, they wanted to make the games fit in the same continuity as the episodes, further proving this theory.
Basically, through this whole deluxe game, I came in to kind of get everything to be a little bit more on brand compared to the first game. I wanted to have a little bit more involvement here, to be closer like references to what you'd see in the show.
I helped in the terms of, because I helped produce and edit Angry Video Game Nerd for the last several years, I was able to incorporate a lot of the things we were doing, like adding Fred Fucks and doing stuff like that into the game, so it has one overarching story that connects to the actual show.
What debunks it, however, is a reference to Def Morthic's Las Vegas Destruction in the Fear and Loathing in Vegas Stakes episode.
They fixed this place up pretty good after that monster attacked. You actually saw that thing. Why don't you talk about it more?
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
The teddy bear could be his old camera or his only friend. In the Mega Man games episode, the nerd time travels through past episodes while playing some Mega Man games there. When traveling back to the original Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde episode, the nerd witnesses 2004 nerd talking to a teddy bear, which could imply many things. The teddy bear could be his old camera, obviously since he was talking directly to it. However, the teddy bear could also be his only friend. The nerd lives alone, and the only people he interacts with is a guitar guy and the many guests he stumbles across. So the teddy bear could be the only thing that has kept him mostly sane throughout the years. The Glitch Gremlin is real. The Glitch Gremlin is a character that first appeared in the game Glitches episode, portrayed as a smug jerk who willingly messes up games by glitching them. He constantly taunts the nerd with his ability to glitch every game he plays, even going as far as glitching reality as a whole at the end of the episode. Since glitches are still present in video games today, maybe the Glitch Gremlin is real and lives in the video games we play. Who knows when he will strike us with odd glitches and buggy catastrophes, but he's still there, smiling, laughing, and smirking at our questioning and angry faces as we try to play our games. AVGN keeps cheating death. Several episodes of AVGN end with him experiencing some sort of timely death, but in the episodes after them, he's alive and well. The nerd has always managed to cheat death, with the Rob the Robot episode being a good example of this. In the episode, Rob has taken control of the nerd room by turning all his games to Gyromite and Stack Up, while also tying up the nerd and killing him. However, the nerd was able to revive himself from his short death. Maybe his anger is too powerful and his need to review shitty games is the reason why he's cheating death so many times. Board James is an alternate reality version of AVGN. This one goes back to the video games episode of Board James, where the nerd is pressuring Board James to unleash anger on garbage. Thing is, where did he come from? He's seen in a black void in the beginning, and as it goes on, the void starts to disappear, and later, he appears alongside Board James. It's possible that he's transported between realities to have Board James convert to the nerd, in order to prevent shitty games from taking over every single reality possible. Board James and AVGN could be the same person. Going back to that same episode, since Board James converted to the angry video game nerd, another possibility to this is that he could be talking to an alter ego of himself, eventually learning to channel his anger into things he finds shitty. The nerd really died in a Nightmare Before Elm Street episode. Much like in the actual films, Freddy Krueger haunts the nerd while he's dreaming, and in that dreamlike state, the nerd was able to clone himself into multiple versions. Each of them is killed by Freddy Krueger one by one as the episode progresses. Near the end of the episode, the supposed original nerd defeats Krueger with a power glove. Once he wakes up from the explosion, he wakes up with the power glove in hand. That explosion could have possibly killed him, since he was essentially forced to review the power glove next episode. Could he be in hell or purgatory? Speaking of which, the nerd died, and the AVGN is his purgatory. The nerd has died countless times, with his most recent death being in the Shrek Fairy Tale Freakden episode, where he gets burned to death. It may be unclear when he was truly dead, but the nerd seemed to be in purgatory, being forced to play shitty games for all of eternity. He even went to hell twice and seemingly managed to escape both times. So maybe he has to play shitty games in order to purify his soul and go to heaven. Robert Louis Stevenson cursed the nerd. Robert Louis Stevenson was a Scottish novelist who was also the original author of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which of course was adapted into the NES game of the same name, which now stands as the nerd's most hated video game. In the revisited episode of the game, the nerd converts to Mr. Hyde and screams this:
Robert Louis Stevenson, you ruined my life!
Then when digging up the body of the author, Stevenson ends up haunting the nerd.
Fuck you! I am the devil! Now go play some Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde!
Despite waking up, it's likely that the soul of Robert Louis Stevenson cursed the nerd into stumbling across the game, and even shitty games as a whole. Multiverse nerd theory. In any part of the Berenstain Bears episode, an alternate universe nerd approaches current universe nerd. In short, the alternate universe nerd explains to the other nerd that multiple universes exist in our universe, connecting this to the Mandela effect and a crossing between the universes that can be blamed on bad memory. The alternate universe nerd ends up getting killed by the bloodstained bears, while the current universe nerd escapes unscathed. As previously mentioned, the nerd has died multiple times, and in the next episode, he's perfectly fine. It's possible that we're not seeing the same nerd. We're seeing a nerd from a different universe. Much like how in the Tomb Raider Games episode, he's killed by the structure falling down on him, and in the next episode, Resident Evil Survivor, he's fine. Hell, even in Resident Evil Survivor, this nerd ends up surviving just with his house destroyed.
Oh, good. You made it out too. Well, thanks for destroying my fucking house!
The only issue with this theory is that sometimes the nerds might be in the same universe, like with the Robo-Nerd appearance in the Darkman episode, though it can be interpreted as a crossing between different universes.
No, this is just a regular review. There's no skits or anything, so get back in that fucking corner and fuck the fuck off! You fuck!
The nerd for Polybius died, and the spirits from the game created a duplicate AVGN. This applies to the Polybius episodes and beyond. In the Polybius episode, the nerd ends up going insane and gets possessed by the game, ending the video with a jump scare. In the episode preceding that, Robocop games, the nerd reincarnated into Robo-Nerd, suggesting that the nerd for Polybius died, especially considering that in the original movie, Officer Murphy was brutally murdered and reincarnated as Robocop. Since Polybius is a weird phenomenon, the spirits of the game could have created a duplicate nerd who gets revived every time he dies. It was a lot of fun compiling and doing research on the Iceberg. It just makes the Angry Video Game Nerd much more interesting, as well as James Rolfe and Cinemassacre as a whole. It's very likely I haven't covered every single thing from this, but I'm still glad this was possible. Even if the nerd were to end for good sooner or later, the impact that he's left on the internet will not be forgotten.
I am dead fucking serious.
Dead fucking serious.
Special thanks to Nathan Silver for helping me with some of the research for the Iceberg, Robopuppyz for helping me with the music choices, and everyone else listed here for giving me their ideas for the Iceberg. This video wouldn't be possible without your help.